I invite people to start to look at where do they hear the I versus the you and the you versus the I. And then when you do, when you hear it, when you start to acknowledge it, say, I hear you. I hear you. Because that allows the universe to know that you're starting to listen. And it starts to open up those pathways that then if you're listening to even the smallest cues, then you will start to listen to the bigger one.
Welcome to the Seeing in the Dark podcast, the podcast for the women of the ancient futures, women that see beyond eyes and know beyond mind and are here to make a change from a deep communion with the mystery of life. Seeing in the Dark is about walking paths that have not been walked before and daring to show up for the mission and dream life that is knocking on your door. My name is Nicole Nima Costeres, mystic, medium, initiated priestess, and here to take you into the mysteries of purpose, power, ritual, and intuition. May you embody your own unique essence so deeply that your vibration naturally teaches, inspires, and assists others. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this brand new episode that I'm sitting here together with Elise Brathwaite from the USA. And today we're going to dive into channeling, a topic that fascinates me in so many ways and in so many layers of my life. I met Elise for the first time in a project that we were both part of from Nova. And the project was The Vault. And I think there were over 45 entrepreneurs bringing their gifts in the vault. And Elise was one of the women facilitating in the opening ceremony. And in this opening ceremony, she offered an energetic clearing. And I remember being in that clearing and just feeling the multidimensional power, I would say, that she was calling upon and working with hundreds of women in the call on clearing from all kinds of layers of their bodies and beings. And I was fascinated. I was curious about who Elise was, and we connected. Turned out that we were on a similar journey of discovering the roots in our West African lineage. And since that moment on, we've been connecting. And Elise, I want to welcome you so much in today's episode.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here and so honored to make our connection in this lifetime and through the ways that we have come to connect. So yes, very honored to have you part of my life now.
I feel very much the same. And I feel curious because you call yourself a modern day mystic and a channel of universal consciousness. And I think this second part I could really feel in the clearing, this universal consciousness that you call upon a power beyond the visible, so to speak, in the clearings and in the channeling work that you do. Could you share a little bit about what you mean with modern day mystic, with being a modern day mystic?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that is really important to me is to really be a voice for not having this separation between our spirituality or, gifts or healers or whatever it is and everyday life. So for me, the aspect of being a modern day mystic is how does that look as an integrated soccer mom? How does that look as an integrated, being who goes to the grocery stores or to the markets or whatever, or who wants to have luxury in her life? What does this really look like now instead of it being, that I might, need to go and live off in a mountain and be secluded and part of like maybe a very small, devout community? It's like, what does it look like in other ways in this lifetime and in this space? Because I think that's a huge opening for people. When we sit in the energy of it, it's this or that, we are so limiting. And so for me, a modern day mystic is, I believe we are all mystics. And the modern piece to it is, what does it look like for you? So for me, it looks like, color and vibrancy and music and collaboration and sisterhood and circle and being a soccer mom and taking my vehicle to a mechanic and all the pieces. And how does the spirituality and the gifts and the who I'm meant to be and bring to the world show up in all of those areas and avenues?
I love that so much. Because I can see so many people actually separate that or struggle with finding that union They can go to
Absolutely.
a retreat and they find these deeper parts in themselves and they express freely and then come home and they're struggling or falling back into whoever they were before that. And that integration is such an important piece. Can you share a little bit about how you did that in your life? How did you bridge the mystic experiences or retreats or trainings that you've been going on into your daily life? Like, how did you do that?
Yeah. So one of the things I teach is around choice. And what we don't realize is that we operate in two areas of choice. One is free choice and one is false choice. So false choice is when we are programmed to make a choice based on a delay. There's 5 avenues of false choice. So delay, I'll do it later. So I'll do it later when things are more aligned or when I have different people around me or whatever that might look like. So that's where we move into like our procrastination through I can't. So that's a false choice. I can't be like this at work. I can't be like this with my family. I can't be like this in my community. So, we know that I can't. I'm choosing not to is different, but I can't is not a fundamental truth. It's usually that you're bumping up against something or false choices in appeasement. So I want other people to like me, right? So I'll do this because I want other people to like me, or I'll hide this part of me because I want these people to continue liking me or being in my life. And then the other is the opposite, which is rebellion, right? So I'm going to maybe do or not do something to, prove a point or to be rebellious. That's still in the energy of false choice. And then the other one is past. So based on my past experiences, I know how this is already going to go. So I know that my parents are super, religious, let's say. So I already know, I pre-decided how this is going to go. So all of these are root causes of us actually living in false choice. Free choice is from this moment. And so I feel that one of the ways I was able to integrate that is really moving through those areas of false choice is where I sat in I can't, where I sat in later, where I sat in who am I seeking love from and why is their love of me more important than my love of me? Why is their approval of me more important than my approval of me? So my acceptance of me, so my non-judgment of me, I would say it's a bit of doing the shadow work really, right? And say like meeting those edges of myself that would ever put myself second, ever put my highest in this moment now need second and my highest truth second to anything else. And then the other piece with that was really being able to, one of the things that fueled me in my ability to do that for myself was, and I want that for you. So how can I be an inspiration to invite you to unlock your deepest truth if I won't be it and live it? So a large part of this was me really being, I want this for my children. I want it for my family, my community, my humanity. I want this for us all. So I knew that if that is true, it had to start in here.
Mm.
I wouldn't say it was easy work, but it was worthy work. And I continue to meet those edges of myself, moments they pop up. They're way more few and far between, but it really did require that work of meeting those parts of me that would ever sit in anything but free choice from this moment right now. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So like those areas where like, let's say an example would be, I remember one time I was at a soccer game. My son played very high level, moved on to play professional. You've got these parents that you've been navigating all these years with, and they were really going through a huge struggle. And, we sit on maybe the benches and I knew about it. And then one day the mother was sitting right next to me. And I said to Spirit, okay, if I meant to share with her what's coming up, then have her come to me. Right. I'm very big on not imposing, but have her come to me and I'll know that that's your side. Right. Even if she's not 100% certain. And it was a huge help to them, a huge shift for them. And I was really able to support the family. And so that's an example of, I'm not going to separate this truth of who I am in any space, at any time or with anyone. So
beautiful. And as I'm listening to you, what I also hear through your words is that, and you can tell me if that's correct, that you are making yourself available for that deeper intelligence or that inspiration to work you in each moment. whether you
all
are
the
at the
time.
soccer field or whether you are working with your clients, whether you're speaking on a stage or whether you're fixing your computer somewhere or your car.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 Because it is such a relationship. And again, it goes back to saying, what is a modern day mystic? I'm in that relationship every moment of every day,
Mm.
every moment of every day. This morning, for example, I woke up and the first thought I heard, like I barely opened my eyes, was you need to look up Gloria Estefan. And I'm like, okay, right? Why? I'm not even sure that. So I just like, weary eyed had to find my phone and like I went into her music
Mm-hmm.
and, I'm still not 100% certain what it is that I'm supposed to pull from this message, but I'm in the curiosity and the exploration of it today. So I had to, of course, start my day and whatnot, but it's a beautiful, magical relationship if we're willing to open to it.
Yes.
And so, yes, it's relating, and I say this because I want to caution, doesn't mean that if you are starting to open up, that you don't have control. I don't really like the word control, but this isn't saying that you're just an open vessel all the time and it's meant to be exhausting. That's not what it means. It just means that this is such a relationship in tandem that, if that perfect example, I was like, well, I'm not going to go and approach this person. So bring them to me. I'm here. Bring them to me. And it never fails. That will happen. I remember I was speaking on a summit one time and there was a gentleman speaking who I had never met in spirit, was showing me everything that he needed support with. And I was like, well, if that is the case, then bring him to me. And we ended up meeting. So the summit happened. I didn't even know what part of the world he lived in. And then somebody called me one day. She had a session with me and said, I'm just really called to invite you to my house. I'm doing this meeting and I don't even know why I'm doing this meeting, but just to collaborate with other like-minded people. And I'm called to invite you. And I got an immediate, yes, you need to go. And it was out of the city and I drove out and my assistant at the time was like, where are we going? And I was like, I don't know. And she was like, oh, this is exciting, right? And so we go out to this beautiful ranch and, come into this space with these beautiful people. And I'm in that curiosity and boom, here's the guy that was on the summit.
Wow.
Right. So it was very, very interesting. I said, okay, so those are the examples of that relationship with the universe, with consciousness. Is not saying I'm open for business all the time. It's to say that I will completely trust that I will also be supported to be in the right time and space. And that in those right moments, I will have everything I need to support others.
I love that. And what I love the most about that, because this is such a big part of my teachings as well. I mean, my work is called Women of Ancient Futures, but it's all about, bringing the ancient wisdom into today in a modern way in our daily life. And I think one of the things I really love is the intelligence that this universe or life or the great mystery has, right? Like how you're saying you make yourself available and you're just following the inspiration. You're going somewhere you don't even know why or what or how. And yet it makes complete sense. And that's something that our logical mind can just never, ever come up with or figure out.
It can never. You're absolutely right. And this is what I tell people. I understand that if we go to like the biological sense, the brain seeks to understand because when it understands, it feels like it has a sense of control. When it feels a sense of control, it feels like it's safe.
Yeah.
And its job is to keep you alive, So I understand those primal needs for understanding what's happening to feel like you're going to survive. And on the other hand, the more you're able to meet those pieces is when you move into the magic and into the mystery. And the mystery is so much more fun. It's so much more fun. It's so much more expansive. It's so much more. I mean, I wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for stepping into the mystery. Like how I even met Katsia was a spirit nudge and, the unfolding of that. So, and it's so much fun and it's so much more efficient. We're across the world. Yeah. We're across the world from each other. And, it's been a, beautiful relationship developing. You've made a huge impact on my life already with my journey. So I couldn't have orchestrated it better from my very limited mind.
Exactly. That's what I meant. Yeah. That I think that our society, our world is still so much focused on 12 steps plans and predictability and linearity. when actually where the magic happens is when we can truly surrender to that nonlinear intelligence, where our mind goes like,
Awesome.
I don't understand, but my heart says, go there now. That's how
Yeah.
I went to my
Yeah.
voodoo initiations. That's how I met my partner. That's how I met you. That's also how I met
Yeah.
Katja. Like
Yeah.
there's like endless of examples of how
Yeah.
it all makes sense when we start to trust and follow that more. Now,
Yeah.
one of the first things that helped me to connect to that, and I want to ask you what it has been for you, because I was very much about predictability. So I was in my 9 to 5 job as a social worker. It was really scary for me to start following where my inspiration and passion was truly guiding me. So I remember around 2014, I made that promise to myself saying, no matter what, I will start following my inspiration, even if it scares the shit out of me, even if I have no idea if it will work out, even if I don't know where I'm going. This is what I'm committing to. And I started on weekends with just a few hours, literally setting a timer and making myself available and say, okay, where's my inspiration guiding me right now? And
Yes.
before I knew it, it was throughout the whole week, throughout my whole life, throughout all aspects of my life to where I am today. And I feel curious, what has that been for you? Because the listener might go like, oh, I would love to make myself more available. And one of those ways is to set some time where you follow your inspiration, whether it guides you to lay on the couch and do nothing or reach out to that person or search something on Google that you feel inspired to search. Whatever it is, I feel this has been the starting point for me to access into that communion and connection with the mystery.
Right. Yeah. I love that. I mean, for me, it is definitely similar. One of the things that I share with people and what I did is at some point, it feels like you're going to be like, if people stay stuck in that linear and they're being invited, at some point, you're going to feel like you're pushed off a ledge.
Yes.
Right? And so, the invitation is maybe you don't need to feel pushed off the ledge. You can recognize it showing up for you. So one of the things I do in my own practice and also what I teach is I call it the eagle vision. And it's being able to take a look at your life and move backwards. So what I would invite even listeners of this is to reflect what actually happened just before they decided to listen to this. And what was the lead up to that? And how is it that you even got a hold of this podcast? And who was the connector for that? And it's like, start making those steps backwards. And realistically, you'll see that you've always been guided, even when you thought it was you, even when you thought it was you in control, or you thought it was you making your 12-step plan, is that there was a yes and in there. The yes and, the universe was conspiring and working with you. So if you can actually do the reflection piece back, with like, and then this happened, but it's a backwards approach. So instead of, I always say, the rear view mirror in a car is smaller for a reason. It's because we're looking at the open road ahead of us. And that absolutely has a lot of value when we are caught up in living in the past. However, if we can actually take that moment and say, from this space, let me just go, how is it that I found this podcast today? How is it that I found Women of Ancient Futures in the first place? Who was that connector? How was that referred? What was happening in my life? And you'll start to see the threads, those beautiful golden threads of how the universe was already guiding and weaving you, sometimes with a lot more of your resistance than maybe was necessary.
Yes.
And so then I say, now those become anchors of trust. Because one of our big things is we can tend to live in the state of fear. What ifs? What if this doesn't work out? Or what if I'm wrong? Or what if this nudge to do something is totally insane, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can reflect back and see where your anchors are, oh man, that was a big anchor moment where that unlocks something. Then you can start to be like, I can't lie to myself now and not trust a forward momentum when I can actually look back and say I've had many anchors. So that's the way I navigated
Beautiful.
was looking back going, you know what, actually for me, it was a little bit of a massive awakening in a sense too. But when I really reflect on it, as a little girl, I always saw spirit. I remember distinctly when I shut it down It was at a time when my grandfather passed away, and, you know, being a teenager as well, it felt like it wasn't serving. And what is this here for?
Yeah.
And then much of it actually started to unlock when I was pregnant with my first son, as
Nice.
often it does happen with women who are expecting and bringing the universe forth, right? So, and then it just, you know, at that point, I said yes. I said yes, you know, and I was about
Beautiful.
21 at the time. So yeah, it's a beautiful journey of trust and playing in. And the trust piece is, if I could say it this way, the universe will always hold you. All you're ever in the experience of is whether or not you have an internal belief that that's true.
I love
That's
that.
the only thing you're exploring is, oh, I've met an edge where I don't believe it's true here. It's like somebody might say, I trust the universe, but not with money. I trust the universe, but not with relationship or with my safety or with whatever. So you're meeting those edges. But once you can let go, I would use the word like bliss, surrender. It's peaceful. It's joy
Effortless in a way.
beyond effortless. Yeah. It's just like, I feel an exhale in my body, like just like a,
Exactly. Yeah.
you know, I don't have to work so hard, effortless. Yeah.
Yeah. I can so much relate with that. I can also feel that the more we dare to surrender to that great mystery working through us, the less we have to do or force or make things happen. And the more naturally
Yeah.
it starts to happen, right? And it doesn't mean
Yeah.
sometimes that could look like working hard, but it doesn't necessarily feel like working hard. It's
Absolutely.
just a lot of life force
Absolutely.
moving us in that moment, but it comes from a place of
Absolutely.
surrender instead of forcing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just got out of a 5-day program that is a 5-day personal development deep dive. And it's hours and hours and hours. We move through content and we don't really leave until it's complete. So first day, people are often like, oh, like they're in their stuff. I'm so tired, you know? And then by the end, when they've actually had less sleep and they've done more and they've moved more energy, they're like, I'm electric. I'm illuminated. Like they have so much energy, right? So
Yes.
when it's purposeful, it feels the complete opposite of work,
Yeah,
the complete opposite.
it does. Would you agree that this is potentially the highest form of channeling? Surrendering to that great mystery, moving us, basically getting out of our own way, not letting fears of what
Yes.
other people think hold us back, but becoming available for some deeper intelligence to move us and inspire us. And in that sense, becoming a channel. At least that's
Yes.
my experience with the deeper I go into communion with the great mystery of life, the more I feel I'm channeling. It's
Yes.
not necessarily
Yes.
the little me doing and deciding and trying to control, but I'm making myself available to channel whatever is meant to be channeled through my blueprint and my soul into the world.
Absolutely agree. And I think that's exactly the distinction, is that there's this idea that a channel is an oracle sitting up on a beautiful mountain in a long robe with a crystal in her third eye, you know. And yes, at times I also do that and love bringing in that energy. I remember that piece of me deeply. But a channel is the mother who is channeling so much love into her child and instilling power and trust and courage in her child. That's a channel. A channel is somebody who is willing to meet their edges and move past their imprints and their limitations to allow for more of that natural piece, which is the universe moving through you, to flow through. So there's something that I teach is we actually have a codependency with the universe. Because if we think about it, it's like we are like leaves on a tree, and the leaf on the tree is flowing in the wind, and it might think that it's completely just alone and blowing in the wind, but it forgets that it's connected to a branch, that's connected to a trunk, that's connected to a deep root system. And so the leaf doesn't exist without the deep root system and the trunk and the branch. And we are that. So we are so connected with the universe that we need to remember is that we are actually the vessel and that which the universe experiences and expands through. So you're right, when we move out of the way, when we move into those deeper spaces of trust and surrender and invitation, is when the universe really gets to move through you and it's not blocked to all that it wants to create through,
Yeah,
all that
yeah.
it wants to experience through you. And that's the beautiful gift.
And then I can feel like, oh my God, what's moving through me now? It's so fascinating.
Totally. Yeah. And why? And what are we going to do with this? And what's going
Yes.
to be created from it? Right. It allows you to be in so much playful energy and so much joy. It's what our natural state really is. And it's literally the living experience of love.
Just a quick break from this week's episode to let you know that registration is open to my brand new year training, Mystic Medium, a year training into the mystic arts for your personal and professional life. This is a year where you will learn to train and develop and fully open mediumship, your psychic abilities, and your ability to offer professional psychic readings to your clients or future clients. But not only that, this year training touches upon a really beautiful variety of mysticism and mystic arts, like deciphering the hidden messages in your dreams at night and learning deep transformational rituals and ceremonies for yourself and others. In this year, I will be your main teacher during 10 days of training days together. But then also 3 of those 10 days, there will be a guest teacher coming to offer her gifts. And all the guest teachers that are part of the Mystic Medium Year Training have over 2 decades of experience in their field of work. This is also not only that. Besides the 10 training days together online, there is also 2 live in-person days where we come together to have our time for community, connection, and training in person as well. Then there is 2 programs included as a bonus as well, and a certification process at the end of this year to show that you successfully completed the year training Mystic Medium of Women of Ancient Futures. Now, you don't need any previous experience with mysticism or your psychic abilities to join this year training, because everybody can develop this. For this first round, there is a special discount of €500 only for this first round. And I would love to welcome you in the year training Mystic Medium. Back to the episode now. So I know that for part of both of our work and teachings, it's about that, like connecting deeper to that mystery of life and very much about life itself. But I also know that we both have modalities where we teach about channeling and mediumship, right? So me with my background in evidential mediumship, where we channel loved ones from spirit and spirit guides, and you with your background in channeling, which is a slight different modality where you can channel all kinds of fields and multidimensional planes. And can you share a little bit about your modality of channeling that you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing for me personally, I actually do believe that mediums are channels.
Absolutely.
They are channels. So I think channels to me are just like a television station or, like a phone. It's like a phone number that you're calling. It's a direct line to something or someone or to a specific station. So mediumship is accessing very specific channel. They've been very tuned in and they worked that muscle to be very tuned in. And inside of that, they are also in very strong communication, as well as like there's such a rigor involved in it because there's requirements of proof, evidence.
Yes.
So the communication in that channeling experience is very like, I don't want all of this piece. I want very direct proof. So it requires them to really almost like hone in even more acutely on the details. It's both a channel, an area to channel, and a muscle that they use inside of that. And then there's people who channel the angels. So that would be a different channel that they are dialing into.
Yeah, like
and
a different radio channel.
A different radio channel. Exactly. Yeah. So for me, how I would explain what I channel when I say I channel universal consciousness is it's like all of it. When I'm sitting with an individual, let's say it's in a one-on-one experience, inside of the all of it, it might be family members that have passed on. It might be their angels. It might be the voice of what we might know as God or their high self or the galactic pieces. But the point is, it's less important about the what, and it's more about all of that coming through in one voice, in one cohesive voice that is not just about the literal words that are coming through my mouth, but the frequency. So channeling universal consciousness is around what does this individual need right now? So for example, let's say I'm doing a clearing. I have very clear boundaries with spirit on this, that this is not mediumship. That's not the purpose of this. The reason for that being is that I will always want to set a container that our loved ones don't get to hijack their experience. So because I have that very clear set boundary, if a loved one comes in to those sessions, I know it's part of their healing. So essentially meaning as a channel, it's my job to get out of the way. It's my job to be actually less focused on the details of the whys and why is this happening, and more on the clarity that I don't need to know why, that I'm in complete trust of this coming through for that individual. And my ego isn't involved in trying to figure out why. It's not for me.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think when, as me that has been training in evidential mediumship for over a decade, when I'm actually in the connection in front of an audience, or like recently I was working in front of an audience and there was this ballerina coming through. In that moment where she starts to share about her career as a professional ballerina, I'm not necessarily thinking I need to figure out why. But because I'm trained in this modality, it's naturally what comes through, if that makes sense.
Right.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the big difference is, and I want to say to that as well, is your ego is involved inside of it, in that I'm only ever going to channel what needs to come through based on the experiential path that they could use me to communicate through.
If you stay within the range of that evidential mediumship, you mean?
No, I'm saying even within myself. I'm talking like as a channel, is that your ego still has to be involved because it's your words. It's pulling from your experience.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they'll show me a movie, let's just say, and that movie will have complete relevance to this individual. But if I'd never seen the movie, it would, right?
Exactly. So yes, it's also what is part of my teachings always, that channeling can only work through your own reference points and your symbols, your experiences. Otherwise, you can literally not grasp it or receive it.
You can't grasp it or receive it. And so instead of the, let's say for you, the ballerina's coming through, and then it might be like, you're now saying, why are you coming through? What is it we're sharing? Like being very on point is, in the space of channeling universal consciousness, is that it will come through, and there's how it feels internally is relevant with the other side of irrelevant. It's like, I don't need to know the relevance. I'm just here to channel it and bring it through. I'll give you an example. This one time it was a clearing, and it was very Viking related, and spirit kept bringing through so loudly, like that this one Viking was really working the rigor of his ticket to Valhalla. And at this time, I still don't really know much about the Viking tradition and all that. I did tell myself after that I was going to explore more, but I was like trying to, like, even stumbling over the word. I was like, well, they actually wrote it out for me, which is why I like kind of pronounced it. This ticket to Valhalla, like it's so important. Like this man was a leader and he was working on this ticket to Valhalla. And I was like, it's so important that you understand that you received your ticket to Valhalla. Like his soul needed that validation. Anyways, and it was a husband and wife that came in for clearing around fertility. And it was related to a child that inside of this past life. I'm not remembering all the pieces, but of the clearing itself. But I just remember, because this was a huge lesson for me, a huge teaching lesson for me. So all of that wrapped up, and, the husband was a little like, okay, I'm here with my wife. Like, we want to have a child. I'm committed, but I don't really know what she's bringing me to, And they were actually camping as well. So they're in their car, just in the clearing. And, you move through it all, we clear it and move on, and open my eyes at the end. And they're just both bawling, and they're like in a ball holding each other. And she says, you don't understand what that was. And I mean, I don't know the relevance.
Yeah.
No, I don't. And even as I'm channeling, often like it's gone now, like it's moved. Like I don't remember the pieces, but this one I remember. Every now and then spirit gives me ones that are like, they're snapshots. And I feel like, again, they're like anchors of trust. I was like, I don't know why this is so important, but you need to hear that in spite of what happened with your child, you had your ticket to Valhalla. This man shares with me that he collects like badges, these different badges. And his most sacred badge, and they sent me a picture later, said, so it's like a badge that you would put on a shirt. It said one-way ticket to Valhalla.
Wow.
And of course I was like, I always say the YCMTSU, I like to use like these jokes of acronyms, but it's like, you can't make this shit up. You just can't, because it was like so important that he understood this and you got your ticket for what I guess he loves Viking stuff and he felt very connected to it and all this stuff. And he got this badge and they sent it to him. And so it was like this confirmation for him, for them. And then, so it's like, that's an example of that's I have to get out of the way and not be in the like, what relevance? Who cares? Like, what, it matters to this soul and this individual. This matters. Every detail that I would have just Elise would have skipped over mattered to this individual. So it's allowing yourself to go to those places, even sometimes that you might not understand. Like I don't have a lot of reference of the Viking, like I said, teaching and whatnot, but this was really important. And so that ego piece is I'll move enough out of the way that I'm at that neutrality of what's coming through is coming through for you. It's not coming through for me. It's not even for me to understand.
I love that. And I think that because we've been talking a bit about being a channel in our daily life, making ourselves available for the great mystery, and then being a channel as a medium or as a channeler. And I think that both have a lot of similarities in the sense that it asks for us to step into the unknown. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what we're going to say. In a way, we cannot really prepare. We can in some ways, but in many ways we can.
Yeah.
And it asks us to surrender to the unknown for magic to move us. And I feel curious, what would you say? Because you are one of the guest teachers in the Year Training Mystic Medium. And this is exactly what you're going to bring. Like energetic clearing is what the group will experience, which is super powerful, beautiful gift and talent that you have. But then also you will take the group into channeling and automatic writing and exploring just these different ways of making yourself available for that universal consciousness to work through you. Now, why would you say that this is an important quality to develop within yourself when it comes to channeling?
Yeah. It almost makes me emotional saying it, because the world needs you. When we move out of the way and the constrictions and whatnot, more of that universal life source can move through you. And right now we need that on the planet. We need everybody activated in their divinity, in their remembrance, in their both experience of giving and receiving love, because the earth needs it. The planet needs it. We need it of each other. It's about raising the overall frequency. That's the big picture, right? And I didn't think that was going to come through, but that's obviously what Spirit needs to say. And that's why the channels are being awakened and why, because they're all different. Like we have those that channel the healing for the earth. Then we have those that are channeling the healing for the animals, channeling the healing for the water, channeling the healing for the women, for the kids, for the men. We need it all. So that would be my first thing. And then the second piece is why it's important is because it's what you're here to do. When we talk about the doing of like, what's the life purpose? This is it. The life purpose is actually to realize yourself and to remember. And when we say remember, it's not from a place of the mind and the brain only. If we think of the word so like recreating, right? It means it's already been done. And member. So coming back into membership, essentially, with you as the expression of the universe. It's what we're here to experience. It's all of our life purpose. When people are searching for purpose, this is it. And then the unique expression of that will be your own individual experience, So it's how do I bring that through, like, Christ consciousness, unity consciousness through me in all of my ways of being and living and experiencing and receiving, not just giving, but receiving, because that's a big piece of it as well, right? It's not like I'm going to give and give and give and give and not receive. That it's not how flow works.
And that's also not a channel,
not at all,
because a channel has a receiving end and a giving
exactly,
end.
Right? That's not how it works. So it's equally as important for the universe to experience receiving as it is for the universe to experience the giving. So, and then, what I can speak more in the literal sense of like, why is what it gets to create in your life. And as I say this, I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, by the way. And it's 11:11. I just laugh at that because I'm on the device and it's like 11:11. I said, oh, okay. So the reason why we would want to do that, like, why would you want to internally experience that piece of you is for more joy, more peace, more alignment, more calm, more creation, more self-expression, more self-love, more trust, more connection, but from the aspect of like the opposite being like not feeling lonely. So not just connection with others, but connection with the divine where you are truly never alone, and more truth, So it's like if you want to experience more truth and more alignment and more connection and more peace and more calm and more flow and more, that is why. That is the why. I feel that we all want that. We all want to have that experience.
Yeah. And I think that training or developing your ability to channel or developing your mediumship helps so much with these things. Like when I look at my mediumship development, oh my God, I was so bad at surrendering. I remember the first time when my teacher called me to come in front of the group and connect with a loved one in spirit, I just started crying because I was so scared to say something wrong or to hurt my receivers or to maybe I don't feel it well. And I didn't trust my intuition or myself at all. And I found it scary to surrender to the unknown. I prefer to prepare, what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And so in my mediumship journey, one of the biggest gifts is to find a deep trust in myself, to find a deep trust in something deeper. And also it taught me how to surrender and dare to step into the unknown. And that supported me in my mediumship, but it supported me in all aspects of my life.
I love that you touched on that because I truly also believe that that is the most important part. I love the program that you put together because I think that people come in, I always say, what's the sign on the door? They come in, they're going to want to develop their mystic abilities and their mediumship and their channeling. But this absolutely is the pathway of creating everything you want that's my point of the modern mystic, of everything you want in your real life. So when you start learning these different avenues, so for example, your example of coming up to the stage and realizing I didn't want to speak because I didn't want to hurt my receivers. It instantly starts clearing and at the very least, illuminating what needs your focus. So clearing and healing the parts of you that have both in this lifetime or in past lifetimes or within your ancestral line, spoken and had your words used against you. And it possibly caused you harm or maybe even others harm, but you start to get to clear those channels up. Now you say, oh, okay, that is no longer part of what I'm navigating. That's fantastic. Now what? Okay, now I feel clean in this, but now I have an issue charging for it. Okay, now I'm right. Now I'm clearing my pathways of receiving and I'm clearing the pathways of sometimes, oracles being locked up in towers and not receiving for it. It was just in a way like your gift was actually turned in a way against you, or being the medicine woman or medicine man in communities and they would give you a house and food and shelter, but it wasn't ever about money exchange, but there was an exchange. And now you're clearing those pathways and you're clearing inside the lineage where the belief is if you have a gift, you're just supposed to give it. And that's the good and holy thing to do. So you're clearing all of that up by meeting those edges.
So many layers.
And now we're not just talking about, can you charge for your service of mediumship? What clears up is that you're going to go into maybe your 9-to-5 job and say, I'm demanding the raise that I was worthy of 5 years ago. Right? Like that's the point, right?
Exactly.
And we start not receiving less in our relationships and in every area of our life. So it's not just, now I can charge for, mediumship or channeling or my services. It's actually, I understand now and I have cleared my pathways to giving and receiving. So it's a very unique way, but it's the necessary way because I have not experienced another way to do the same thing while avoiding any type of conversation or connection to our spiritual realm. Like when I witness people who are still really doing the rigor of, the rah, 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 like charge for your worth. And they're really navigating and they're doing the doing. They're doing the doing. And it's
Yeah.
still not working. To me, that's when it's like, it's
Mhm.
because you need to pay attention over here, and something else is
Yeah,
being asked for you to clear those channels and those pathways.
exactly. And that's when you can really come forward from your essence, from
Yes.
the inside
Yes.
out instead of from the outside in.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. And I think one of the things a training like this or the work that you offer also does, it allows you to bring in the originality of what wants to come through you. Like even, sure, in this year training, for example, you will learn specific ways how to channel. You will learn how to offer an evidential mediumship reading. You will learn how to create deep rituals for transformation. But in the end, what you will learn the most is how to make yourself available for how that then wants to come uniquely through you.
And that's the really
Yes.
beautiful piece, because when we think about the kind of more the 3D world, is that, you might, even if you think about people going to school, they might say, okay, let me see what career I want to go into. Okay, there's an influx of, I don't know, let's say accountant. Maybe it's not wise to go into accounting. I love numbers, but it's not wise to go into accounting because there's so many accountants. So people might not get hired, even though that's your unique thing that you want to bring to the world. So now you go, okay, well, maybe I'll become a computer tech. Okay, there's more work in that area, but it doesn't bring you joy. It doesn't bring life into your body. It doesn't feed your soul. And it's like, again, in this more 3D experience, it's like, if somebody's like, no, I'm going into accounting because it's what I love, this is bringing through their purest passion. And that in
Yes.
itself is going to be a reciprocal energy inside that universal experience because it's what they love. There's a different energetic imprint to it versus maybe somebody who
Yeah.
a couple of years before said, well, I'll go into accounting because there's not many jobs in accounting. So it's the same type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
as a medium or as a channel or as a healer, is that your unique print on that is what's needed.
And this is what I love teaching also in the mastermind, like I always teach women how to connect to the soul of your
Yes.
business and to allow that to work you
Inside
from
out.
the inside out. And then it doesn't matter if there is a billion healers on
Exactly.
this planet. You are bringing your unique way in the only way that you
Absolutely.
can. And the soul of your business is choosing you for a reason because only you can channel it into the world
The way
the
you
way you
can.
can. And that's where competition also disappears.
Absolutely.
That's my
Yeah.
experience. There is no competition anymore when you truly surrender to your unique blueprint and the work that uniquely wants to come to you.
Absolutely. Like even when I was facilitating, like teaching SRT, and then after people would be like, well, I don't know, like I can't do it like you and whatever. I'm like, you're not supposed to.
What is SRT?
Spiritual response technique. So that's the clearing, past life clearing. I mean, I've expanded. I call it alchemical clearings now because, of course, it's expanded. But I don't clear like you. I'm like, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to clear like you, right? You're supposed to tap into your divinity, into your divine essence, into what wants to come through you, and that's what you're supposed to access. Because I'm already here, just like I can't do you. I can't be you, right? And they're like, okay, yeah. So that's like one of the first layers of starting to grasp it, especially when we can feel inspired by someone and be like, wow. But we can only see that thing in them because it exists in us. Right.
Exactly.
And so, but it's not to be them, it's to pull that piece of you out of you.
I love that. We have so much overlap in our teachings.
Yeah.
I really love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to almost close our conversation, because I think we can go on forever, but if the listener feels like, how can I start with channeling? And then I'm talking not about channeling daily life because we touched a bit up on that already. But I mean more if the listener is interested in channeling the spirit realm or channeling universal consciousness, is there one simple thing that they could do basically already today to try that out?
I would invite people to start to differentiate between their voice and the voice of the universe. Because again, whether you were aware of it or not, or conscious of it or not, it has always been expanding and experiencing through you. So I think that becomes one of an initial tool that will take you a long way. So the way I teach that is to understand when you say something like, I should really go to the grocery store and pick that up on my way to this thing. And when you hear, you should really go to the grocery store and pick up this thing, is to start to notice those little cues between I and you. So I is you in your self-direction, and you is you receiving guidance. So you might then argue and say, well, no, I can go later. And then you won't go to the grocery store, and then later will come and you'll realize that there was an accident and there's not a way to get there. And now you're home and you don't have what you need. And you'll be like, oh, that's why you're guiding me to pick it up on the way. Right. So I invite people to start to look at, where do they hear the I versus the you and the you versus the I? And then when you hear it, when you start to acknowledge it, say, I hear you. I hear you. Because that allows the universe to know that you're starting to listen. And it starts to open up those pathways that then, if you're listening to even the smallest cues, then you will start to listen to the bigger one. I hear you. I hear you.
I love that. And it's so true, because when I started to follow my inspiration in my daily life for those few hours, it started with super random stuff like get that book and open it and whatever, or go for a walk. And then it ended in me shedding my whole life, ending my relationship, quitting my job.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Then the big stuff started.
So building it as a muscle, right? So anytime you hear that direction, like, go do this, you should do that. It's like, it's something moving through you. And you should call this person. You should check out Gloria Estefan, right? Like whatever it is, right? It's like, okay. And then just being curious, just sitting in the space of curiosity. In curiosity and non-attachment. I don't need to know why, right? But I'm just going to be curious. Oh, isn't that interesting? And then, you follow those cues. And then I say, one is I hear you. And then the other is I see you. Like, let's say you say, okay, I don't know why, but I'll stop at the grocery store first. Stop at the grocery store. You still carry on your way. Maybe you're picking your kids up from school and you come back and you see the accident. Acknowledge it. I see you. Thank you for that direction. So it's this building of this relationship with the universe, and those become micro anchors in the big scheme that might lead to shedding your job and shedding your relationship and shedding everything.
Yes.
Totally transform your life. But you'll have so many anchors that you're like, why would the universe not support me in the big stuff if it would support me in the little stuff? Right? If it would support me in stopping at the store on my way because it loves me that much just to make my life that easy, then why would it not support me in the big stuff?
I love that. So one of the ways that people can experience you and your work is in the year training Mystic Medium, because you'll be a guest teacher in April. You'll be coming on with a powerful energetic clearing and channeling and really beautiful exploration. And we will also link your links below to your Instagram and your website. But do you want to share anything about where people can find you or any upcoming programs or offers that you have?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So yes, on my website, they can definitely, find me there. I am on social media. I'm very, I would say, inconsistent, just because it's a tool, but it's not my life, and I don't want it to be anybody else's life either. And I also offer a monthly full moon group clearing. So that's a way to kind of step into that space of clearing and ritual and to have that experience. And I do have a program that's opening up next month, actually in November here, called the Ascension Path. And it's a year-long program where we kind of move through how to become that modern mystic. So I don't teach the mystical pieces. Like, I don't teach what you teach, actually. But what I do inside of the Ascension Path is we start meeting the edges where that doesn't get to live through you. So it's like, it's not about teaching how to. Well, that's not true. We do kind of a little bit at the end that starts to be the opening. But what we first start looking at is what's not working. So and that's a year-long program. So it's a beautiful container to, have that time to kind of relax into it, and not, because it will bring up a lot. It will clear a lot. We do lots of clearing inside of there in one-on-one sessions as well. So it's, it's a pretty magical container as well. So that's starting up next month.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much. And I'm sure that the listener can feel inspired now to explore the realms of channeling. And for the listener, also, thank you for listening. I wish you a beautiful week, and we'll see you again next week on the Seeing in the Dark podcast. Much love. Did you receive any inspiration, motivation, or powerful breakthroughs by listening to this episode? Then please share this episode by taking a screenshot and tagging me in your stories at nicole.nima.costeres. I would love to celebrate you, share you in my stories, and it would mean so much to have my work reach more powerful, passionate women like you. Thank you so much, and looking forward to see you next week.